inaugural address, Ronald Reagan stated, "All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government." Before the Revolution, the British unitary system gave the central government too much power, and the people felt it was clearly time for a change. However, the resulting Articles of Confederation left the national government with too little power. The Philadelphia Convention combined aspects of these two systems of government to create federalism, which is the struggle for power between state and federal governments.
The underlying principles of federalism, including state sovereignty and checks against the federal government, manifest in some of the essential features of the American system of government. In Federalist 51, James Madison stated, "A double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself." This double security is seen today with Citizens United v. FEC, which is being actively challenged by Montana and Colorado. Both passed initiatives in the last election to petition the federal government for an amendment overruling the decision. During the constitutional debate, the Anti-Federalists wanted to preserve state power. The 10th Amendment is the clearest example of this, ensuring the Constitution only defines the limits on the states, not their powers. While the federal government has only its powers described in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the states also reserve certain police powers in an effort to better their citizens. This includes controlling the National Guard, creating legal punishments, and dealing with land regulations.
We agree with Justice Sandra Day O'Connor's view on federalism. Overall, it is better suited to the diverse needs of society by ensuring there is a difference of law between the state and federal governments. This can be seen through the 15 states that allowed women to vote before the ratification of the 19th Amendment. It increases citizen involvement through voting for representatives in the 89,055 governments, which gives the public a more personalized connection to their policymakers.
It also provides for more experimentation among the states. The 2006 Massachusetts Universal Health Care Law was the first time a state experimented with coverage for all of its citizens and inspired action in several other states and eventually at the federal level. A good example of federalism encouraging competition for a mobile citizenry can be seen in Nevada. While most other states have some kind of personal income tax, Nevada does not. This has encouraged businesses and workers to move to Nevada, as shown through Las Vegas's population growth of 41.8% from 2000 to 2010.
In his dissent of New State Ice Company v. Lehman, Justice Louis Brandeis described how the states could try novel social and economic experiments without the risk to the rest of the country as laboratories of democracy. Throughout history, this dynamic has proven to be especially important. While more attention is given to the fact that marriage law varies by state, divorce law varies almost as much. In the early 1990s, Nevada's loose divorce laws made it easier to get a divorce much faster than anywhere else. Over time, Nevada's example was copied around the country. Now only New York has a residency requirement of over 1 year. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 of the Constitution empowers states to make laws regarding voting. As a result, many different systems exist around the country. Oregon, for example, collects all ballots through mail, while Florida allows individual counties to set polling regulations. In the absence of federal action, states like Arizona have passed stricter immigration bills to stem the flow of illegal immigrants. This action spurred similar laws in 6 other states.
Occasionally, state initiatives are brought to the federal level, as seen through California's Air Pollution Control Act of 1947, which was federalized in 1955 with the Federal Air Pollution Control Act. However, laboratories of democracy can also lead to bad effects, such as in 1973, New York passed a series of minimum sentencing laws for drug possession, known as the Rockefeller drug laws. The model spread throughout the country, leading to a majority of the people in prisons being convicted of nonviolent crimes.
In Federalist 45, James Madison stated, "The states will retain, under the proposed Constitution, a very extensive portion of active sovereignty." The ideas of laboratories of democracy embodies Madison's remark. However, oftentimes the state sovereignty is overcome by federal supremacy. Thank you.
449. But you had some stumbles there, so. Can a Nevadan be a good federal citizen and a good state citizen at the same time? Explain your answer.
Can a Nevadan, did you say? Okay. Yes. Yes, they can, because while you don't have to, a lot of the federal laws and the state laws are relatively the same, or they're on different territories completely. Therefore, you can oblige to both laws at the same time.
However, when these two jurisdictions have conflicting laws, it makes it difficult to decide which one you want to follow. You're a resident of Nevada, but you're also a citizen of the United States. So you have to decide which of these two conflicting laws you're going to enforce in your state.
Can you explain how the doctrine of federal preemption might kind of make this whole idea of laboratory of democracy kind of go haywire?
So like applying federal preemption to laboratories of democracy?
It's, preemption towards these unique and novel ways in which states might experiment with democracy and create their own policies, etc. How might federal preemption support that? How might it, or how might it screw it up?
I don't know what preemption is.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. So,
Action before. I know what it is.
let me ask you a different one. You guys mentioned in your testimony that Arizona is creating its own immigration policy, quote, in the absence of federal action. Does the absence of action, specific action in a particular area where the federal government has power over it, does that alone justify a state kind of seizing that power or taking that power upon itself?
No, but that state taking the action upon itself can act to spur federal action. Because after Arizona passed this and it went through the Supreme Court, or went through courts, it was seen that action was needed in terms of immigration. And that's why there's an immigration reform bill on the floor today. And so these kinds of states acting on the problems allows for recognition of the actual problem on a federal level.
I believe that the action of Arizona basically creating a stricter immigration law would also be more justified because they aren't defying the federal immigration law completely. They're more of adding stricter critiques to it, which makes it still constitutional and not completely different from the federal law.
Is federalism working today? Explain your answer.
Is federalism working in terms of the framers, or is federalism working overall?
Yes, federalism is working today. This can be seen through the current legalization of marijuana in certain states and bringing it to the federal government's attention.
Or you can look to, as we mentioned in our testimony, the Rockefeller drug laws, which were possession charges that were then copied federally, and now the majority of the people in our prisons are a result of the Rockefeller drug laws. So federalism in terms of laboratories of democracy might have its downsides as well as working, as Sydney said.
Is the idea of mobile citizenry, as Justice O'Connor called it, is she saying that, where one state might adopt a noxious policy or a policy that infringes on the rights of somebody who lives there, that effectively their responsibility is then to vote with their feet and move any time that their jurisdiction infringes on a right or adopts a policy that's really honestly objectively bad?
I don't think her objection or her point was to say that people can just move from state to state for whichever laws they see fit. It was more to say that they can move from state to state for what laws they seek for themselves, whether like, most of the state could agree with a law that they don't agree with, and that law could be very important to them. So they could seek that more than anything else the state could provide.
The alternative to that is a state like California where Proposition 8 is in effect, and so gay couples cannot be married. So rather than move to another state to get married, they petition their own government and the Supreme Court effectively to overrule the decisions and to make change by themselves so that a mobile citizenry does not have to move, but instead can make their own decisions.
We got 15 seconds.
I'm done.
So am I. Okay, so I guess we're all done. Good, Dan, comments?
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good, I liked your 4-minute testimony about answering the question.